Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing a review on Justice League Volume 1, 2011, the first volume of the New 52 Justice League series. It's written by famous DC Comics creator Geoff Johns, and the artwork is by famous Marvel and DC artist Jim Lee. This review is going to be pretty casual, just try to have fun with it, basically just sharing my thoughts and feelings on the overall story. I'm not going to try to be one of those authoritative channels that act like their word is law. Okay, so it opens up with Batman being chased by the Gotham City police. I like the way Jim Lee drew Gotham City. There's some influences from Batman the Animated Series. I do have to say that this one picture here is pretty funny. And just the way Jim Lee went crazy with the shading on Batman's lips. He kind of looks like a gorilla or something, just like, "What? The police are shooting at me?" So he dives off a building, and I have no idea what he's doing with his cape in this scene. Like, he's just holding the strands of it forward. Like, the artwork is fantastic, but it's just like, what is he doing? So this is a pretty engaging beginning. It's pretty exciting. But at the same time, it's a little funny. I was just tumbling around. So Batman then comes to the parademon that he's been chasing after. And he shoots a cable straight through its leg, which I feel like is a little violent for Batman. Like, yeah, he's pretty harsh sometimes, but he doesn't kill, and I don't know. I just thought it was weird. Alright, so Batman catches up to the parademon. It releases a wave of energy. I'm not sure how he survived that. I mean, I guess his armor protected him, but still. And he gets beat down by it, and then bam, Green Lantern saves him. I think how slamming the parademon with a fire truck is a great way to introduce his character. So Batman and Green Lantern realize that they're both being chased by the police, and they have to work together to get away and stop the parademon. Then they start trying to have a conversation about superhumans and how they're treated. I think it's odd for Green Lantern and Batman to be having this conversation due to the fact that they're not really the same because, one, Hal is an intergalactic police officer and is completely justified in what he's doing. Yes, humanity and Earth isn't really connected to the intergalactic political system, but nonetheless, Hal isn't doing anything wrong. Batman is a vigilante, he is breaking the law. It's also strange due to the fact that neither of them classify as metahumans, due to the fact that Batman has no powers, and that Green Lantern relies on his ring. So I feel like this conversation should have went down between Flash and Aquaman, characters who are actually metahumans. Then it's kind of clever that Hal conjures giant bats to help save the helicopters from the parademons, due to the fact that Bat's on his mind. So then Green Lantern tries to explain to Batman that he's an intergalactic police officer, but Batman just kind of trolls them, which is kind of funny. Then the two take their search to the sewers after the parademon, and Hal comes to the conclusion that Batman doesn't have any powers as he asks him what he can actually do. And Batman has nothing to say. This is probably the best dialogue in the whole story, which isn't saying much, but, I think it captures the essence of the two characters. But one thing that's a little bit strange is that this is New 52, which is post-Flashpoint, and is a brand new continuity, and this is the first time we're seeing these characters. And there's little to no difference between Hal and Batman from post-Crisis history to this, or pre-Flashpoint history to this. And it's kind of like, what's the point of doing a reboot if the characters are going to be the same? So then Batman takes a stab at Hal, and tries to figure out what gives him his powers, and he just takes his ring off his finger. And it's like, okay, how did he do that? Like, they just don't show it. He just takes it when Hal's not paying attention. He just has it off his finger. It's like, how? It's just one of those frustrating writing decisions where DC writers think they always have to make Batman one-up people to show why he's as cool as the other heroes with powers. But it's like, you don't have to do that. And more often than not, DC writers end up having Batman do things he shouldn't be able to. And it's just annoying. I think sometimes people make the mistake of thinking that to make one character look good, you have to make the others look bad. But you don't have to. You can make them all look good at the same time, just to give them different strengths and weaknesses. Because this scene just makes Hal come off as a complete idiot. So the two finally catch up to the parademon, then it touches one of the mother boxes, and it explodes. The explosion is huge, killing the parademon, but Hal manages to keep himself and Batman safe within inside a construct vault. Now this is where the story starts to break down a little bit, because they're both trying to figure out what the mother box is. Neither of them know. Hal's ring doesn't even know what it is with its scanner. And Hal comes to the conclusion that it must have something to do with Superman because it's alien and he's an alien. So they both decide to go find Superman and talk to him about it. Which is some of the strangest logic ever, because at face value it makes sense, like Superman's an alien, this thing is alien. But Hal, with all of his Green Lantern knowledge and everything the ring knows, I don't see how it couldn't identify the mother box. And also, Hal should just know better that it doesn't have anything to do with Superman. So we get hit with a shot of Hal in his construct jet and Batman flying to go find Superman. And meanwhile, we have Victor Stone at his football game, who will become Cyborg in this story. And here they try to do some world building by having the kids remark, "Oh, it's one of them," referring to superhumans or metahumans. And the kid asks Victor if his dad works with them, and he says yes. But he says they never talk about him to me. So, they're trying with the world building here, but it just kind of falls flat. Because none of the kids here actually do anything to convey what their actual feelings are on the superhumans. They don't necessarily look scared or all that surprised. It's just kind of like, what's going on here? So Hal and Batman land in Metropolis, coming out of Green Lantern's construct jet. Batman remarks on how they should have come subtly with a stealth entrance, but Hal doesn't really give a crap and traps Batman inside of a green cube so he can go inside the building where he believes Superman is and thinks that he'll go and stomp him. Now again, this is a very Hal Jordan moment. They capture his personality perfectly. It's pretty funny how Batman's kind of just along for the ride. So Hal then gets speed blitzed by Superman and launched back. As we can see, the concentration on his construct is broken, letting Batman out. Either that or Superman may have possibly broken it, because we can see Batman flying back. Either way, though, I think it's odd that Hal is further back than Batman, even though Green Lantern was in front of Batman because he was the one who was hit first. Either way, it's just very odd that Superman would instantly attack both of them like this, not knowing what they want or what they can do. So Hal is launched back pretty far, makes a big boom where he lands, and then Batman is real scared as he sees Superman's foot. Then we get hit with a splash page of Superman, our first look at New 52 Superman. I think Jim Lee did a great job at designing New 52 Superman's costume. I think it's a great modernization for the character. Now, of course, Superman's classic costume can't be beat, but if you need to give him a modern one, New 52 is a good choice. But the characterization of New 52 Superman is terrible. It's really annoying that he's a complete jerk, and you'll see that as I do the rest of this review, but it's he just flies in the face of everything Superman represents. He's supposed to be kind. He's supposed to be loving. He's supposed to care about everyone. But in this, they make him an edgelord, and there's really no reason for him to be an edgelord. He has the same origin as all the other versions of Superman, but for some reason, he's just a jerk. And of course, the first line of cocky dialogue we get from him is, "So, what can you do?" Superman's entrance is also the last part of issue 1. And as a side note, the cover of issue 2 is just kind of funny because it's just Superman murdering Batman. So next, we're introduced to Barry Allen in New 52 reality. Now, people in Central City seem to be completely obsessed with the Flash, and due to the fact that Barry is a crime scene investigator, he's assigned to figure out who Flash is. But of course, Barry doesn't care about that because he is Flash, and he wants to work on cases that he thinks actually matters. Cases for people whose families were murdered and stuff, and he wants to make sure they don't go cold. But it's kind of funny because Barry's boss doesn't want him to work on anything except for the Flash case. So Barry's kind of neutralizing his own self. So it's not a bad idea, but at the same time, it honestly is just kind of funny that he hates himself because he can't help other people because his boss only wants to investigate himself. It's okay, Barry, I guess it's time to get a new job. I'm also not sure what happened to Homie's eyeball in this picture. I think maybe the digital coloring was odd because I'm pretty sure when Jim Lee penciled this, the part where his eye is gone is supposed to be all shaded with black, but for some reason they went with just a darker version of his skin tone, which looks weird. So then we get hit with a double, highly detailed splash page of Batman being absolutely useless against Superman, none of his gadgets doing anything to him. So again, Superman is highly aggressive, does a very unlike Superman thing in which he slams Batman against the wall, choking him, accusing him of trying to kill him and being in league with the parademons. Also, just the way Jim Lee drew the impact in this scene, it's like, okay, how is Batman's neck not broken? The Rock is literally breaking around him and he's being pushed by Superman. Also, it makes no sense for Superman to be this aggressive when he knows that Batman can't do anything to hurt him. Now, this scene honestly just disgusts me. Like, Superman says, "Talk, Batman, before I won't let you." It's like, really? What kind of Superman is this? Like, what's the point of even writing a Superman that acts like this, who's edgier than Batman almost, and more aggressive? This is anti-hero or villain dialogue. Superman would never say anything like this. This is why everyone hates New 52 Superman. So Superman finally gets shut up and gets his from Green Lantern. He gets hit by a big gold construct from Green Lantern drawing blood. Now, it really sucks that I'm not rooting for Superman in this situation, as he is one of my favorite heroes, but they make him so freaking unlikable that I just don't care. Like, it just doesn't make sense to write Superman like this. He's the hero of heroes. He's supposed to be kind and endearing, and he's supposed to inspire others to do good. And here he is, again, more supervillain dialogue. He gets trapped by Green Lantern in construct chains, and he says, "Chains? You're funny, Green Lantern." It's like, what? He's a supervillain. So Superman then goes Incredible Hulk mode, busts out of the chains, and starts punching Green Lantern as hard as he can, trying to break his constructs. And I'm not sure if he's trying to kill him in this scene or what, but it's like, dude, where's all this rage coming from? Now, this scene here visually is kind of neat, as Hal and Batman bounce around in this construct force field as they're getting knocked around by Superman. They're both trying to survive. Barry then becomes aware of the situation and comes to back up Hal. Barry shows up in a flash and very cartoonishly spins Superman around by grabbing him by his arm and spinning him. It's pretty stupid. Flash then does some kind of a weird Speed Force palm strike which sends Superman flying. Superman then enters super speed mode and speeds at Flash. Superman again, acting like the Incredible Hulk, just rages on Flash and tries to attack him, even saying a very Hulk dialogue saying, "I don't like being attacked." It's like, really? Like, is what Jeff Johns is going for, is Superman just stupid in this version? It's just strange. So Supes is then clearly outclassed in speed by Flash, and he can't lay a finger on him. Flash then gets cocky and starts taunting Superman, and Superman fakes him out by hitting with a fist, but then at the last minute flicking out his pointer finger, knocking Flash back. The fight then abruptly ends, with Batman of all people breaking it up, standing in between Superman and the others. And it's like, okay, Flash and Superman realistically would have just got right back into the fight, and Batman wouldn't have had a chance to try to stop it because he's nowhere near fast enough. And Batman then explains Hal's stupid logic that he thought that Superman was connected to the alien devices because he's alien. And for some reason, this makes Superman calm down. It's funny because Flash here is just as confused as I am as to why the fight stopped randomly. And then they decide to clean up. Then the police arrive, and all the superheroes decide to hide in the sewers. Even Superman and Flash, who could have easily escaped with their speed, they decide to follow Batman. Batman is then worried that there's more than one Mother Box on the Earth, and then it's revealed that there is one. Star Labs happens to have a Mother Box, and they've been experimenting with it. The lead scientist working on the project is Victor Stone's father. So Victor comes to talk to his dad and ask him why he never comes to his games. And Victor's father basically tells him to screw off, and he doesn't care about his games. He only cares about science and studying these new metahumans. Victor's father explains to him that with the new arrival of superpowers in human DNA, that what Victor can do on the football field is basically meaningless. Victor then asks his dad if he's ever going to come to one of his games, and he straight up just says no. I was like, okay, so Victor's dad is the worst dad ever. Now, this scene is supposed to, I guess, make us emotionally invested in Cyborg's character, but it really doesn't, because it's honestly just kind of funny. His dad is, like, comically mean to him. So the heroes go into an abandoned printing press in Metropolis trying to figure out what these things are, the Mother Boxes. Batman then asks Superman why he doesn't hide, and why he doesn't wear a mask. And that could have led to an interesting conversation with Superman explaining why he does what he does, why he wants people to see his face and trust him, and the contrast between that and Batman's philosophy. But instead, we don't get a conversation. It's cut off by Hal and Flash trying to figure out what the mother boxes are. So the heroes come to the conclusion that they still don't know anything about the mother box. Superman can't see through it with his X-ray vision. The Guardians don't know what it is, and Flash doesn't know what it is either. Flash then suggests he can try to run fingerprint scans on it. Batman says that he sounds like a cop. Barry says that he is. Hal then exclaims, "Barry, you're exposing your identity?" And then Barry says, "You just did, genius." And I think it's pretty funny that they're both just idiots exposing their identity to both Superman and Batman, but at the same time, it's like, why? It's also funny how Superman isn't saying anything in this scene. He's just standing there like a big ape. And then both the mother boxes start to go off. The mother box where Victor is blows up, disintegrating some people and injuring him. And the mother box where the heroes are brings in an army of parademons. And one of them is screaming for Darkseid, which is in English. I'm not sure if the heroes could understand what it's saying or not, but either way, it's kind of funny. And then we can see Victor being badly damaged, which will lead to his cybernetic parts. Next, we get hit with an image of Steve Trevor, Wonder Woman's boyfriend in previous incarnations, trying to deal with the fact that people are protesting against her and trying to deal with the fact in the way she handles missions, because she works with the U.S. government. Now, it's kind of funny that the way they designed him, they kind of try to make him look like Duke from G.I. Joe or something. You can see that Wonder Woman burst through a wall. Then we can see her walking down the street in her metal bathing suit, asking anyone if they've seen a heartbeat. Now here they're trying to do the fish out of water thing, where she's a warrior princess who's come to man's world, but for some reason they play her as a brute, kind of Thor-like character. Instead of being kind and gentle and smart and inspiring, she's just a brute who throws her weight around and doesn't much care for human customs. Wonder Woman then spots a little girl eating ice cream. She asks her what it is. The little girl tells her it's the best food in the whole world. Wonder Woman tries some while pointing a sword at the man selling the ice cream. She tries it and tells him he should be proud of his achievement. Again, this makes her just come off as a brute who is just, going about life trying to have fun instead of coming here with a mission, trying to protect people. Steve Trevor shows up and chastises Diana for leaving. He then tries to get her to come back, criticizes her for all she wants to do is fight, and then she says she's tired of being told what to do, as she felt suppressed by her mother, Hippolyta, being queen of the Amazons. So she was bored with being trapped on an island where she was bossed around by her mom, and she's come here and essentially treating man's world as a playground for her to have fun, which again, isn't admirable, isn't inspiring. What the freak is the point? Diana and Steve then realize that there's a whole army of parademons trying to kill them. Diana then brandishes her sword and smiles at the chance to be able to fight. It exclaims that a fight is excellent and that they should leave them to her, further showing that she's just here seeking adventure and doesn't really care about anyone. We can then see that some parademons are tearing apart Star Labs, and that Victor is in critical condition and being cradled by his father. Now we get into some of the parts of the story that are a bit more fun. As we see here, we have a great action sequence of Green Lantern making a gigantic construct, crushing some parademons, Flash using his speed, Batman somehow harming these powerful creatures, and Superman putting one in a headlock. I think this scene here is cool with how spinning two hammers around both his hands, showing that he doesn't need everything to come out of his ring, that he can use both hands. And then I also think it's cool that Superman's got a whole bunch of parademons he's flying with them. Batman seems to have a laser-proof cape, which is kind of ridiculous. And then Flash saves some people. They realize they need to regroup, but Flash says that Superman doesn't need to. As we can see, Superman is fighting off a whole bunch of parademons at once, and then goes nuts on them with a truck. It's probably my favorite scene of Superman in this whole volume. It's just kind of fun. He continues to beat the crap out of the parademons with the big truck, knocks a bunch of them into the ocean, and then takes out one last one with a tire. So then we see Victor being hauled off to an experimental place in Star Labs to try to find a way to fix him up after getting injured so badly. The procedure will probably kill him, but Victor's dad is going to try it anyway. We get some more very well drawn action scenes, but the parademons come in more numbers, chanting for Darkseid, and the heroes start to get overrun. But then Wonder Woman shows up and starts turning the tide, cutting the parademons to pieces and kicking and punching them. The guys seem to be amazed by her. Flash says, wow. Hal says dibs, being the you-know-what that he is. Now this is honestly one of the worst scenes. It's just so stupid. Superman sees her and says, you're strong. It's like, New 52 Superman, he's just a meathead. To which Wonder Woman replies, I know, showing that she is also a meathead, making them a match made in meathead heaven. That's honestly one of my least favorite romances in all of comics. Okay, back to the story. So, Cyborg's dad does the experimental procedure on him, and he starts to glow. Cyborg is then infused with technology and starts calculating ones and zeros. We're then hit with this big splash page of Cyborg freaking out, seeing multiple images of Darkseid. We can also see multiple images of Cyborg. It's honestly kind of hilarious, these close-up shots of Cyborg screaming. He's like, oh no, it's a giant rock guy with glowing eyes. We can then see a gigantic tower burst out of the water that looks very similar to the Parademon's armor. Energy is coming out of it, and the Parademons are encircling it. We then see the heroes take notice of something moving next to them. They see that it's a Parademon, but that it's impaled by a 3-pronged spear or a trident, and it's then slumped on the ground. We then see that the wielder of the trident is none other than Aquaman, who has some of the strangest dialogue of all in this scene. He says, they were in the water too. So who's in charge here? I vote me. Now, it's pretty obvious here that Geoff Johns is trying his absolute best to make Aquaman cool. And the thing is, it really just doesn't work. It's like he just shows up and he's like, I vote me as the leader. It's like, oh, he's such a cool edgelord. Now, I do have to say, later on in this series, in the Throne of Atlantis story arc, Geoff Johns does successfully make Aquaman pretty cool in that storyline. But in this one here, not so much. Now, this is the cover for the next issue right here, and it's pretty funny that he's just, he murdered Green Lantern and Batman. That's odd because in the issue they don't even fight each other or anything. Okay, so back to the story. So here we see Victor transforming into Cyborg with the tech that his dad put inside him to heal him. And as we can see here, Cyborg is very disturbed by the change. He says he can't feel his arms or his legs. And then he starts receiving data and realizing that he can project it holograph. He can project holographs, and he can see data and control it. We then see that Cyborg is attacked by some more parademons, that he has weapon systems that automatically activate to protect him. Cyborg takes out the parademons, disintegrating them with his sonic cannon. He then looks in his reflection and realizes what he's become. Not a bad introduction to Cyborg. Victor then complains about a buzzing that he can hear in his head, and hates his father for transforming him into what he sees as a monster. He then hilariously jumps out of the hole in the wall and screams, "You did this to me!" Meanwhile, the Justice League are having some awkward dialogue. Some of them are surprised that he's real. Superman asks what his name is. They say they call him Aquaman. Wonder Woman says, "Greetings, Aquaman, what a day for our fight." And it's like, what is she, Hercules from Marvel Comics? Aquaman then continues to complain that there's no leader and tries to find one. Now this scene here isn't Geoff Johns' fault, it's just that throughout the years of Justice League history, there's never been one definitive leader, because all of them have leadership qualities, but at the same time, none of them are 100% leader types. You could suggest Superman, but in this version he's a jerk who doesn't really care about anyone. You could suggest Batman, but he's a loner and has strong ties to Gotham City and can't be on the team all the time. Wonder Woman is a logical choice, but in this version she's a meathead, and then in other versions, she has strong ties to Themyscira, so she can't be a full-time leader all the time. So trying to find a perfect all-time for the leader of the Justice League is pretty hard. They have some more conversations about who should lead in this storyline, but they never find a definitive leader, and they don't even find a definitive leader in the whole series. But, I can't really blame Geoff Johns for anyone else who wrote it, but whatever. Green Lantern and Aquaman start arguing about who should be leader when a bunch of parademons come and attack them. Hal calls Aquaman out for not being able to do anything that the others can't, but they're conveniently next to the water, so Arthur summons a giant shark to bite the parademons. Arthur then stabs one of the parademons through the head with his trident, killing it. Hal then says never mind after seeing Aquaman's display of power. However, this doesn't really show that Arthur's all that great because, he summoned some sharks to eat some parademons and he stabbed one through the head, but still, he didn't actually do anything that the others couldn't have handled. The U.S. Army shows up and starts open firing on the parademons and the Justice League, with a whole bunch of helicopters. Okay, so next we see Superman and Flash going up against the U.S. military. Flash himself says that he doesn't want to fight them, but Superman says that they have to, and that there are people in position of authority that aren't always good. And it's like, again, more of Superman being highly aggressive and him not being the conscience on the team, which he should be. It totally flies in the face of everything Superman has stood for 75 years. So then we see Cyborg has discovered his boom tube powers, and he arrives on the scene next to the Justice League. So Cyborg now has the ability to understand the Parademon speech and the Apocalyptian speech, and he knows that a bad guy is coming. So after watching Flash and Superman trash some more military helicopters with people inside, we see a bright light, and then we see a dark figure emerge, and it's none other than the big bad Darkseid himself. One thing I have to say is, this is a pretty good entrance for Darkseid, but his costume is whack. Like, his design is just all over the place. It looks a lot like the Anti-Monitor for some reason. I much prefer Darkseid's classic look. It's much more intimidating. It's simple. It just works better. And then I think this is the worst dialogue in the whole story. Hal sees Darkseid and he says, I guess that's the bad guy. And Batman says, good guess. And it's like, I don't know if Geoff Johns at this point knew this story was bad, so he just phoned it in, but it's like, really? That's what they say when they see Darkseid? So then Darkseid doesn't mess around or waste any time. He just releases a gigantic energy shockwave which knocks back the whole team. Now, I do think it's cool how powerful they made Darkseid in this scene, but then we get hit with this big splash page where he just says, I'm Darkseid. So, strangely enough, Flash is the first one to get up from the blast, even though the others are probably much more durable than him. He sees Darkseid destroy a plane and yells at him to stop. And funnily enough, just by Flash yelling stop, Darkseid stops. Then Flash asks where the others are, Superman gets up with some more bad dialogue, and then Darkseid fires off his Omega beams, and Flash grabs Superman, saving him from them. Now this scene, I like the kinetic motion of it and the way it flows. I like how Flash is grabbing Superman and he's running with him. At the same time, Superman is starting to run, and they're dodging the Omega beams. Then we can see Superman and Flash split up as the two beams split up to chase both of them individually. Then we get this cool shot of them zigzagging through Metropolis. I think this is a really great visual, and I think it's cool that we can see that Flash is further ahead of his Omega beam than Superman is because Flash is faster. I think that's a great detail. Now Barry gets smart and realizes that he can't run from the beam forever and it won't stop, so he vibrates through a parademon, letting it hit the parademon and not him. But Superman, not being fast enough to evade the beam or to outmaneuver the beam, gets struck by the Omega beams, causing devastating damage to him, rendering him unconscious, and then a parademon picks him up and flies away with him. Next, we see the Justice League try to retaliate against Darkseid. Green Lantern tells everyone to stand back and watch the light show. I have to give credit to Jim Lee and the art department in this scene. It's really good. Green Lantern tries to strike Darkseid with a construct, but it breaks on Darkseid. I think it's good to make Darkseid powerful, but I think Hal's construct literally breaking on him is a little bit over-exaggerated. Darkseid then charges up with some cosmic energy and blasts back the heroes. Then this part, Hal kind of becomes an anime character. He says, "That all you got? Not all I got." Then he gets wrecked by Darkseid, Then Hal continues to be an anime character and says, "I'm not through with you yet, I'm not." And then Darkseid grabs Hal's arm and breaks his arm even through his construct aura. Hal is sent flying back with a punch, and then Darkseid walks away, having fully defeated the League. So Darkseid walks away, and then Hal tries to get back up and keep fighting. But Batman says, "Your arm's broken, you idiot." And he tells him that he's gonna die, and then Hal screams, "Then I die." And it's like, okay, we all know Hal Jordan is a maverick, but is pushing it a little bit too far. He's just coming off as a moron. Batman then decides to have a heart-to-heart with Hal and takes his mask off, admitting that it's crazy that he wears a bat costume, and tells Hal that he's Bruce Wayne. So Bruce tells Hal his origin story and why he fights criminals, and then tells Hal that he needs to rally the rest of the team to fight Darkseid, while he goes and tries to get Superman back, all while transforming into man. Bruce then lets a parademon pick him up and flies him to where Superman is being held. Hal then digs out the rest of the League and tries to rally them to go fight Darkseid. So the League starts discussing a plan, and then they come to the conclusion that they have to blind Darkseid because his Omega beams are OP. Now, it's a pretty simple plan, but I guess it's not too bad. Meanwhile, Bruce is taken to his destination by the parademon. He then enters a portal that leads to a mysterious place he doesn't know. He comes out on the other side and sees the hellish landscape of Apocalypse. So the Justice League launched their attack on Darkseid. A pretty cool double splash page. Hal making big constructs, Cyborg using his sonic cannon, and Arthur stabbing him with his trident. The one thing that's pretty funny about this picture is that Flash is running around with a pole, with a little piece of cement on the bottom, and he's doing absolutely nothing to Darkseid. It's like they couldn't have found something clever for Flash to do. So we go back to Batman for a sec, where he's sneaking around Apocalypse, and he finds Superman being tortured by Desaad and Steppenwolf. Wonder Woman manages to stab Darkseid right in his eye with her magic sword. Now again, some odd characterization on Wonder Woman. As we can see here, she's laughing that she got to stab Darkseid in the eye, and is smiling and enjoying it. And it's like, Wonder Woman is supposed to be a role model type character. How is she supposed to be a role model when she takes pleasure in causing other people pain, especially by stabbing someone in the eye? Especially because it just doesn't fit this very dramatic, dark scene. Next, we see Flash holding Aquaman and running with him, and we see that Flash throws Arthur at Darkseid, and Arthur stabs out Darkseid's other eye with his mystical trident. This combo move is a little awkward, but Arthur stabbing Darkseid does look pretty cool. Darkseid then tears out the sword and the trident out of both his eyeballs. Batman then frees Superman from the things that were torturing him. I'm not sure how he does this because they were able to penetrate his skin, and if they were that strong, Batman shouldn't be able to rip it apart, but whatever. Now, I do like these two close-ups right here. Close-up on Darkseid's eyes glowing, and then Superman's eyes glowing, and he says, "I'm Darkseid." And then we see Batman say, "We need Superman," which I think it would have been great if it was the close-up on Darkseid, he says, "I'm Darkseid," and the close-up on Superman, he says, "I'm Superman," and then, comes at him. Especially because this next double splash page is pretty cool, with Superman zooming out of a boom tube and striking Darkseid with both fists. Next, we can see Superman here struggling with Darkseid. Superman is then quickly overpowered. He starts to get his spine crushed by Darkseid, who grabs him in a bear hug, and the other Leaguers start pouring it on, trying to help Superman. Then Batman starts giving Cyborg a pep talk about how he needs to master his control over the boom tubes and shut it down so Darkseid gets trapped. Now this scene is kind of funny because at this point Batman is completely useless. So all Batman can do is be like, "Cyborg, please shut the boom tube now." Now it's pretty funny here that the way this fight is going down is that Superman is basically just tanking as much damage as he possibly can to keep Darkseid busy, while the others kind of jump around and just do nothing. So it's basically just Superman getting his butt kicked. And here we can see Batman giving Cyborg one last final pep talk, and Cyborg finds the will to control the boom tubes with his newfound cybernetics. So here we see Cyborg, we get a big splash page of him in kind of an awkward position, mustering the power to control the boom tubes. Kind of looks like he's a little bit constipated. So Cyborg closes the portals around Darkseid and Cyborg is trapped in Apocalypse. And the heroes all steady each other by putting their hands on each other's shoulders. I like this shot here. It kind of reminds me of the Guardians of the Galaxy ending scene. Then we get a big splash page of a gigantic white explosion, and another shot of the League holding each other together. The team realizes the conflict is over. They look around at the aftermath of the battle, and they see the crowd cheering for them. And then we see Superman smile at a kind smile for once, and so do the others, as they're happy that they saved the populace. Now, the thing about the team dynamic here is that most of the characters are pretty edgy and harsh. Pretty much all of them are, except for Barry. Which I feel like Superman should have been nice too, like he's supposed to be, and the two of them could have counteracted the rest of the edginess on the team. Also, I feel like how harsh and how moody the artwork is, I feel like it would have been great to contrast that with Superman's bright personality. To be the people's hope, to be the one that defeats Darkseid with the rest of the team and leads them to victory. Superman needs to be an inspiration, not just a weapon. So then the Justice League are awarded by the President and are recognized as the official heroes of the Earth. And they finally start to gain people's trust. Hal hears that the President refers to them as a team and is offended. But then Batman realizes and says, hey, what if something like Darkseid happens again? So then they decide to stay together, even though they don't actually say that. They realize they don't have a team name, and Flash says that you can call us the Super 7. Now this line honestly makes me want to die. It's not funny at all. It's almost like Geoff Johns didn't care about the story at this point. He's just phoning in the dialogue and the jokes. It's pretty lazy. And the thing is, Geoff Johns isn't a bad writer, as his work on Green Lantern's Secret Origin was quite fantastic. And the Booster Gold series that he did work on was really good too. But the thing is, I feel like the book was probably rushed because New 52 was all kind of rushed. They were trying to just get a reboot out there to whip up some sales quick. And there was really no plan. That's why the characters are all kind of flat. So overall, is it a fun read? Yes. Is it a good read? No. The character designs are great. Jim Lee did an amazing job on the artwork like he always does. But that's not enough to take away from the so-so story and the unacceptable mistreatment of Superman's character. Well, that's it for this review. And I think next I'll be making a review on the Throne of Atlantis story arc of this Justice League New 52 series. And in that, things get a lot better and is actually super cool. Well, everyone, thanks for watching. Until next time.